The United Nations is accusing Moscow of committing war crimes throughout Ukraine. This as Russian attacks continue to pummel Ukrainian city centers and energy infrastructure ahead of winter. The new report says the Kremlin is deliberately striking innocent civilians with drones along the front lines. More than 200 people have been killed and 2,000 injured in Ukraine's southern regions since July of 2024. Russia has repeatedly denied accusations of targeting civilians. Sama Abdelaziz brings us the latest on the UN's findings.
Imagine being watched and then chased by a killer drone. What would you do? Would you run? Would you leave your home? That's exactly what's taking place in Ukraine, according to the United Nations, which has just released the findings of an independent investigation into Russia's war on Ukraine. It found that Russian forces committed the crimes against humanity of murder and full transfer. Now, the report details how Moscow's forces are using these relatively cheap aerial weapons predominantly to terrorize civilian populations in some regions, killing, maiming, causing widespread destruction, making life generally unbearable for residents until they're forced to flee by the thousands. This is particularly the case in frontline areas, where 69% of casualties occur, according to a UN body. There, Russian troops have been found to hunt people down with drones. I want to read you a portion of the report that speaks about one specific area. They chased them, at times over long distances, while they were near their houses or in the street, on foot or using transport, and dropped explosives on them or struck them with suicide drones. Now, as the war rages on, Russian authorities, despite claiming not to target civilians, are systematically using coordinated drone attacks to drive Ukrainian families out of their neighborhoods, according to this report. Sama Abdelaziz, CNN, London.
The United Nations is accusing Moscow of committing war crimes throughout Ukraine. This as Russian attacks continue to pummel Ukrainian city centres and energy infrastructure ahead of winter. The new report says the Kremlin is deliberately striking innocent civilians with drones along the front lines. More than 200 people have been killed and 2,000 injured in Ukraine's southern region since July 2024. Russia has repeatedly denied accusations of targeting civilians. Pablo de Greve is a commissioner of the Independent International Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine. He is one of 3 members on the commission behind this new report. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Rosemary.
Now, your report finds that Russia's drone warfare in Ukraine, combined with Russian authorities forcing civilians to relocate, amount to war crimes. What is the most damning evidence you have of Russia's war crimes associated with drone attacks specifically on civilian targets?
So on the drone attacks, the evidence is quite conclusive. We have both interviewed the victims, but also analyzed more than 500 videos that have been posted either by Russian Federation units that operate the drones themselves or by people very closely associated with them. And we have been able to geolocate almost 300 of those videos in order to guarantee their accuracy. We also have interviewed close to 300 victims of those attacks. And I think that what is important for people to realize is that these are the types of drones that provide real-time visual feed to their operators, and therefore they leave absolutely no doubt about the fact that they were targeting civilian objectives.
And why does Russia target civilians, do you think?
So in this case, we carried out an investigation in an area spanning 300 kilometers along the Dnipro River, which in a certain sense acts as a natural barrier to the front line. And it's a front line that has been static almost since the beginning of the conflict. So what the Russian armed forces have not been able to accomplish through military kinetic means, they are trying to accomplish through the use of drones, which they send across the river. And the main objective is to create a situation of so much terror and so much dysfunction, because they also attack basic infrastructure that provide essential services, including, for example, first responders that have special protection under international humanitarian law. They are trying to create a situation that makes the whole area unlivable, and people, as a consequence, have to move.
And Commissioner, what are you hoping your report will achieve by putting a spotlight on Russia's war crimes, and who will ultimately be accountable?
So in this report, we are much more explicit than in past reports about identifying perpetrators. For example, we have been identified the units that are responsible for the drones attacks. We were able to identify to whom they report about those attacks, and the hierarchy to which they obey. Part of the objective of this, Rosemary, is to accumulate evidence that may be useful for future prosecutions, either by the International Court, by national jurisdictions through the principle of universal jurisdiction. To accumulate evidence both for judicial and non-judicial purposes.
Pablo de Gref, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
On the contrary, thank you, Rosemary.
Fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.